Hello, everybody. My name is Jim Leedy. I'm the Associate Dean for Undergraduate Education and a teaching professor of finance here at the Mendoza College of Business. And on behalf of Dean Kremers, our faculty, our staff, and our wonderful students, I'd like to welcome you to this admitted student session tonight. Thank you for joining us. First, I'd like to say congratulations. It's amazing accomplishment just getting accepted. I know this was the toughest year ever, and so you should be very proud of what you've accomplished so far just to have this chance to come to Notre Dame. So our goal tonight is not really to convince you that Notre Dame and the Mendoza College of Business is the best for everyone, but we want to share some information, share some insight, share some experience, help you answer some of your questions so you can make the best decision that you can over these next couple of weeks. So our plan for tonight, we have 45 minutes. We're going to start by a few introductions, and then I'm going to have a very short presentation. I have some exciting news to share with you. And then after the short presentation, we'll just open it up for questions and answers. And all of our panelists, we have two students with us, Sean Ford and Tess Geishauser, one of our academic advisors, Lisa Hemming, and myself, and we're all willing and able to answer the questions as best as we can. So let me start. I'll just give a 10-second introduction to myself. I've been here at Notre Dame for 16 years. I grew up in Northern Indiana, went to West Point for my undergrad. I served in the Army, active duty for a few years, went to graduate school. I pursued a PhD in economics. I've taught at a few colleges prior to joining Notre Dame in 2006. I'm a retired Army officer from the Army Reserve. I'm also a Notre Dame parent. My daughter is a sophomore in civil engineering here. And I have a niece who is an admitted student just like you. So she just got admitted 2 weeks ago. So the buzz hasn't really faded off for her yet. And I imagine you're still pretty stoked as well. So that's a little bit about me. So I'm going to have Sean introduce himself next.
Yep. I'm Sean. I'm a junior business analytics major from the south side suburbs of Chicago, Tinley Park, if you're familiar. I live in Fisher Hall on campus, and fun fact about me is I was in Dublin last semester studying abroad.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tess Geishauser. I'm a senior finance major from the Philadelphia area, specifically Reading, Pennsylvania. I'm currently off campus, but I lived in Johnson Family Hall, the newest dorm at Notre Dame, and I'm happy to be here.
Great. Thanks, Tess. My name is Lisa Hemming, and as Jim mentioned, I'm an academic advisor here in Mendoza. I've been at Notre Dame also 16 years. Jim and I started the same year together, and I've had a few different jobs, but I have to say my undergrad advising position is my all-time favorite so far, and I don't plan on going anywhere soon. A little bit about me. I'm actually from Wisconsin. We've been in the area since I moved in October of 2005. A fun fact about me is that I'm a 7-time marathon runner, and I ride my bicycle across the state of Iowa every summer. This is my 20th year in their annual Great Bike Ride across Iowa in July. So lots of camping. It's quite fun. So.
Thanks, Lisa. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. We just have a few slides I'd like to cover with you to give you a little taste of what your experience could be like here at Mendoza, in particular about the academic program, because there are some big changes I'm going to highlight. So give me one moment to get the screen set up here. Okay, so this is our lovely courtyard. When you come to Notre Dame and you're in the Mendoza College of Business, you're going to select your major at the end of your at the end of your freshman year. But you're fully free to discern the major and what fits best for you up through at least the end of your sophomore year. You can change majors as much as you like during those first 2 years. And even beyond, in many cases, a student can shift to a different major if they find that their passions lie somewhere else. So we do have the 5 majors you see on the screen: accountancy, business analytics, finance, management consulting, and marketing. We also offer 5 minors at Mendoza. A few of these are open to all university students. Those are the top 2 you see on this list: innovation and entrepreneurship, which is offered in partnership with the Fitzgerald Institute for Real Estate. I'm sorry, that doesn't make sense. Offered in partnership with the Idea Center, And then we also have the real estate minor, and that's the one that's offered in partnership with our Fitzgerald Institute for Real Estate. We also offer a business technology minor. That one's only available to Mendoza students. And we have two other minors that currently Mendoza students are not able to register for, accounting and digital marketing. That's part of our efforts to make business classes accessible to the entire university, and especially in this case, those students who are not majoring in business. But I will say, as I talk about the new curriculum, one of the most exciting things about the new curriculum is for the first time, students are going to be able to double major within Mendoza, so you can have two business majors. And even more accessible is we plan to expand this list of minors here in the very near future. Our students aren't limited to just majoring in Mendoza's, though. Not most, but a large number of our students will get a second major outside of our college. So either through the College of Arts and Letters or the College of Science, and now the College of Keele School of Global Affairs. And then a lot of our students get minors as well. So lots of opportunities. So what I have here is just a kind of a diagram of our four-year business curriculum. So Tess, being a senior, is the first class that's really been exposed to this full four-year curriculum. Prior to that, we really were a three-year business school. Students came to Notre Dame, they spent their first year on campus doing first-year things, and then they joined a business school as sophomores. Now students take business courses during your first year. That's going to help you discern which majors you like, what your interests lie in, what you don't like. And so we think that's a huge advantage. As you look at this diagram, starting with the orange circle, that's the university core requirements. That's the liberal arts core of your education here at Notre Dame. That's the same requirements for everyone on campus, regardless of your major. Moving down, the blue, light blue circle, the business core, this is about 26 credit hours, and this is the big change. So for your class, you're the first class that's going to experience this new business curriculum. That business core circle used to be about 50 credit hours. So we've almost cut it in half. And what that does is that we've done that by reducing requirements. There are fewer credit hours required to get the BBA degree, going from 128 down to 122. We've also reduced the number of specific business core courses you need to take from 18 specific courses down to 10 specific courses. And this opens up lots of degrees of freedom for you to pursue different interests and build different curricula that suit your career outcomes. So if you look, we still want broad exposure to business. So what we've done is we've introduced business electives. So our students will have to take 9 credit hours, about 3 courses of business electives. That's new. So rather than telling you which business classes you need to take, we will do that for the fundamentals, but beyond that, you can choose electives. We've also slightly increased the number of non-business electives from 21 to 24 credit hours. That's important because at Mendoza, and as a student at Notre Dame, you're going to take roughly half your coursework within Mendoza and half your coursework in the broader campus. We really feel strongly that we offer a liberal arts degree with a business focus, and so we want to make sure that stays the same. And then we'll also, the business major will take usually about 7 courses or 21 credit hours. That might change at the margin as the new business core requirements have changed. But what this does is it frees up a lot of opportunities for students to either pursue a second major. And now you can pursue a second major within the Mendoza. So you could be, say, a business analytics and an accountancy major, 2 different majors in the business school. That hasn't happened before. And even more so, it'll really open up the opportunities to get a minor in business. So you can perhaps major in finance and get a minor in accounting or any other combination. So we expect to expand the number of minors over the next year or two. Probably the next up, we're really working hard to get a minor in finance, and I would expect that to be available by the time you guys are ready to move into minors. The other thing I'd like to mention is we also launched a business honors program last year. So we're actually finishing our first year of the program, and our sophomore class is the first cohort to go through that. So this is an exciting program to offer specialized curriculum, a lot of more intense classes, more focused classes, but also classes that really look at the moral purpose of business, and a lot of interaction with thought leaders, both on campus and across the country. So for that program, you'll apply at the end of your first year, so spring of freshman year, you can apply to that program. Currently, the cohorts are about 60 students for the Business Honors Program. I've mentioned some of this already, and I'm sure we'll get into this when we get to the Q&A. But I already mentioned we really are a liberal arts degree, we really want our students to take about half of their coursework outside of Mendoza, and our students do. You can say about 40% will earn a second major in another college. About a third of our students will earn a minor, either in business or in something else. And one of the great things about our curriculum here in the business school is that it's very easy to study abroad. A lot of our students will study abroad during junior year for a full semester, regardless of your business major. It's very doable. We also have study abroad programs in the summer and more limited programs during breaks, fall break, spring break. And we also have a few classes that will go on trips. So there's lots of study abroad opportunities. All right, so that's all I really wanted to take the time to go over to kind of the big picture and just kind of describe those curriculum changes. They're very exciting. The opportunities that your class is going to have is going to be drastically different than your predecessors. So I hope you're able to take advantage of that, and good things will come. So I'm going to stop talking, and we're going to open it up to questions. So let me stop sharing my screen here. All right, and Lisa, I'm gonna hand it over to you.
Unmute. There, I was muted for a second. So first, we're going to kick it off I'm going to pass the torch to Tess and have her do a brief kind of introduction and a little bit more of her Notre Dame journey and her story. And then Sean will continue, and then we'll head off to Q&A. So if you'd please have questions, submit your questions on the Q&A panel, and then we'll get to them. We will group the questions together if they pertain to the same subject area. So just be patient on that. So thank you. So Tess, over to you.
All right. So again, I'm Tess. I'm a senior finance major. My story is actually maybe a little different. I was a transfer student my sophomore year. So my freshman year, I was at Catholic University in Washington, D.C. South Bend was definitely a change from the city, but it was a welcome one and the best decision I ever made. Initially, I wasn't really sure where I wanted to be at Notre Dame, or even really in college. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to major in. But as I was applying to Notre Dame, Mendoza really caught my eye and sort of opened me up to pursuing business, and it broadened my interests in that way. So I applied into Mendoza and then wasn't really sure where in Mendoza I wanted to end up. But one of the things we're really lucky to have is really great professors, especially for intro courses. So Professor Carl Ackerman, I had him for intro finance, and he is just one of the best people ever, just so dedicated to his students. And he really made me feel like I understood finance, and like there were more than just one career path in finance. And so that's what I chose to pursue as my major. Then, of course, we were hit with COVID. But throughout my time here, I've participated in a lot of different organizations. I pursued SIBC projects. I helped on the wellness commission of my dorm in Johnson Family. And now one of the most rewarding things that I've participated in as a senior is being a mentor in the Business Honors Program, which, as Dean Leedy said, is new. And then I'm also part of the Deloitte Scholars Program, which is very similar to Business Honors, but a lot smaller and also very rewarding and thought-provoking. And now I'm really just looking forward to giving back to Notre Dame and to Mendoza as I move forward in my career. But I'll hand it over to Sean.
Thanks. Yeah, that sounds amazing. That's a great story. Mine starts off, I was thinking, gosh, junior year is rolling around. Like, where do I go to college? And one of my advisors was going on a trip to Notre Dame, actually, and she said, "Do you want me to get some information for you?" And I was like, sure, why not? Never really thought about Notre Dame before. I was a first gen student. I was just thinking I would go to a local school around Chicago area, stay close to home. And then my advisor brought back some information, and I went on a biology field trip actually to Jordan Hall of Science. We did the like DNA test to see if you had fast or slow twitch muscles. But when I was on campus, I just fell absolutely in love with the atmosphere here and how incredible all the students were here. They were super welcoming. Everyone was super kind. And I feel like that it just lends itself to the stereotype that there is a really good person at Notre Dame. There are just good people at Notre Dame, which I found to be absolutely true. But so I came back the year after that on another biology field trip. And then I also got my dad a birthday gift to come see Liverpool versus Borussia Dortmund, a soccer match here. As it was a gift for him, but also like a little gift for me too. Like, oh, I can't wait to go back to Notre Dame. And that was the summer going into senior year. And I just kept coming back to campus and kept loving it. And so I sent in the application, and I still remember actually where I was when I was accepted. I was in the Nutella Cafe in Chicago with some friends on a night out. But that was like my acceptance story. And then how I chose Mendoza and the business major is actually twofold. So when I was in high school, I was in an orchestra in the Chicago area, and I loved music. I still do. I played French horn with this orchestra. I started playing piano when I was like 5 years old. And I thought, wow, I love music. I want to keep doing this forever. And so I was thinking to myself, well, gosh, music is a hard major to make a good living off of. How do I support a family later on? And I thought, well, I should probably take on a business major. It seems like it suits my personality. And I've also been super interested in coding, which is why I'm a business analytics major now. But so I got to Notre Dame, and I had the first year, like as was mentioned before, you have plenty of time to discern a major. You have a lot of leeway with taking different classes, seeing what works for you, what doesn't. I think I switched my majors and minors around a million times. You can ask Lisa. I met with her a million times for each one of them, and she's been super helpful. But yeah, so that's how I chose Notre Dame and Mendoza. And at Notre Dame, I'm still doing a lot of music, marching band. I took part in that the first 2 years. I am in the Notre Dame Symphony Orchestra. I did SIBC for a semester as well. I am also was a part of the Pascagoula East Musical Company, which is just puts on musicals as a student-run organization. So if that's your thing, there's plenty of stuff for you here. But yeah, that's just a little bit about my story and where I'm at now, but looking forward to taking your questions.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sean. All right, so let's kick off with questions. And I'm actually going to take care of the AP questions straight off the bat. And I've actually typed an answer. So for AP, most of the scores are 5s, and they're on the First Year Studies website. All Mendoza's AP classes are principles of micro and calculus. We are no longer accepting AP stats credit. So that will not be taken. So it will go to not counted because the required AP stats class you're taking on campus is a duplicate. So it's not counting. All other AP credit scores or all other AP credits will go to non-business electives. So I wanted to take care of that. Okay. One question about, it says, can students from other colleges double major in the business school, like I'm in the College of Science and as a math major and double business as a business degree? Unfortunately, only business majors can major in business, but non-business students can have minors in the College of Business. So that is how that's handled. Some students, if they want to, at the end of their freshman year or kind of mid-freshman year or the end of freshman year, can apply to transfer into Mendoza. So that's the opportunity for non-business students to then study business. Jim, do you have anything further to add on to that?
I would say maybe about 80 to 100 students will transfer after their freshman year into Mendoza as sophomores. But you do have to have the business school as your primary college to major in business. But like I said in the my little program, that you can have a primary major in business and then a secondary major in other colleges. Now, it doesn't mean you can major in every possible thing that's out there on campus. It's very hard to double major in engineering, for instance. But there's a a wide swath of majors you can choose as a second major, but it has to be your second major.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so I'm going to have this at a test. What internships opportunities are available? Which years do students do internships, and how difficult are they to obtain? Interested in more investment banking and finance related fields. So let's hand it off to Tess.
So in finance, internships are definitely a hot topic, especially in the fall. But we are blessed to have the resources that we do with the Career Center and with all the different clubs that we have here. So I was involved in Wall Street Club, Investment Club, SIBC, which is the Student International Business Council. And really any club within Mendoza is really focused on helping their members get internships and get work experience over the summer or even during the school year. I'm sort of an odd case maybe for finance. I'm actually going to law school next year to hopefully pursue corporate law. But my internships were canceled because of COVID. So I sort of had to come up with different ways to get experience over the summers. But all of my friends in finance who are pursuing investment banking careers had a breeze most of the time getting an internship for IB or for anything like corporate finance related. Even for consulting, it's just something that we really have good resources for. And if you're on top of your game and you're organized and you're meeting with all the people you need to meet with, Notre Dame really is good at facilitating summer internships. That's what I would say. But I don't know if Sean has any different experience with that.
Yeah, actually, I would just point out also our, what is it called? Induced to the Career Center. The Career Center is incredible. There's some incredible resources there. It's the entire 5th floor of Duncan Student Center, which is a building on campus that's for students to gather and like maybe get a coffee or a smoothie, get some work done. There's 8 floors of Duncan Student Center to go through. And on the 5th floor, it's all dedicated to career everything. So that's great. And then you touched on consulting as well. And I had a consulting internship last year, and it was incredible. And yes, they're difficult to come by. It's hard work to get these internships, but you're in Notre Dame because you're hard workers and you've already put in a ton of work already. So comparatively, I would say it will be, like Tess said, a breeze most of the time.
The only thing I would,
Okay,
the only thing I would add to that is one of the best resources here at Notre Dame is our alumni network. And our alumni network just bends over backward to help students through a variety of ways, whether it's coming to campus to be guest speakers in classes or give presentations, or being on the recruiting teams for the firms when they come to campus to recruit Notre Dame students. I just had a student I connected today with, a former student of mine's investment advisor at Goldman Sachs. Student in my class last fall is trying to connect with somebody. So, I was able to connect her to that alumni. And so, now they're working, they have this connection. So the alumni network here is just amazing. And it permeates all over campus through the Career Center, through different clubs, through classes, and through different events. So that's one of the great resources we enjoy at Notre Dame.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right. Changing direction a bit. I'm going to start with Sean. So how important are the team projects that Mendoza students have throughout their undergraduate? And if so, are there opportunities to do projects such as consulting or financing with international organizations? I'm not sure if you know about the second part, but at least answer the first part.
I wish I had more experience in the second part. That sounds super cool. But yes, team projects are super important. Like we mentioned before, SIBC is one of those settings where you'll do a lot of team projects and work in a team. But I'm actually going into about 3 projects right now, getting towards the end of the semester. You get these cumulative projects. And so you will do a lot of team projects in Mendoza. It's super important, of course, to get some experience working in a team with people, maybe different working styles. And it's also a great way to network. Like Jim mentioned about the alumni network. Another network that I found was super helpful was the student network of kids that have interned at the place that I was applying. So for example, if you like looking at McKinsey or something like that, other Notre Dame students that have interned at McKinsey or have full-time offers, you'll meet a lot of these kids through these team projects. But yeah, so I'd say that they're very prevalent throughout Mendoza. I'd say they're probably more prevalent as you get up into higher level classes. The intro classes are great for getting a lot of experience with the field itself and more of a rudimentary understanding. But as you start applying these things, that's when you start seeing your team projects a little bit more, I would say.
Fantastic. Tess, any other insight into that?
No,
Okay.
that was perfect.
All right, fantastic. Talk about professor and undergrad student relationships. Are professors typically accessible outside of class? What's been your exposure and experience? I'll start with Tess on that.
My experience has been great. One of the most beautiful things about Notre Dame since I've transferred is just how great the professors here are. And they all are pursuing really interesting research. So even outside of class, I found it gratifying to just talk to them about what they're passionate about and what they're doing research on at the moment. And building that sort of relationship is so powerful, especially once you get out of Notre Dame. I know a lot of professors who, the professor that I actually talked to, Carl Ackerman, he is currently friends with someone who plays for the Minnesota Bucks. And just building that relationship over time is really great for when you're in your career and need someone who you know is an expert. But when you're in the class, finance did not come very naturally to me at the beginning, and it's still something that I constantly have to work on. And so having the ability to talk to your professors, they're always available for office hours. They always have times or days. And if none of those times or days work for you, they're so good about coming up with times that do. They always make themselves really available and open, and they really just want to talk to you. But it all comes down to whether you're willing to take the initiative to actually go and seek help when you need it. Because I think a lot of times people are sort of hesitant to admit that they maybe aren't in the best spot and need a little bit of assistance. But once you do, it is so much smoother.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Sean, anything under that?
Yeah, I'll admit it's tough for me sometimes. I'm like, gosh, you got to just power through this, Sean. And then it'll take me a second to reach out to professors. But the second I do, they're the most accommodating people I've ever met. Even like you mentioned, Carl Ackerman, he took a 105 person finance intro class and made it fun. And I would just say that's an incredible feat. And this was during peak COVID as well. So the fact that the man is masked up in the front of a room full of 100 kids, and I'm still engaged sitting in the back of the class because that's the only seat that was left by the time I made it there. I was just super, super floored by how well they engage with students and how open they are to students, even texting them on WhatsApp if they have a question. They're super accessible. You'll never go without help if you ask.
Mm-hmm. That is correct. I think the faculty are our best kept secret in terms of student resources, especially office hours. So if you're just make sure there's one highlighted recommendation as a incoming freshman, wherever you go to school, use your resources related to the TA and office hours. Definitely. I've had a couple of questions related to advising and kind of our approach to working with students. So how the model is set up is that all first year students are assigned a first year advisor, and you will work with that first year advisor through the whole first year until you officially declare your major. So right now, right before spring break, all of the freshmen declare their major. Then we onboard them to Mendoza, and now as they are preparing to register for sophomore year classes, they're eligible to meet with the sophomore through senior Mendoza advisors. So we're all housed in the same office. And as a advisor in Mendoza, we work with you to plan out your schedule, look different scenarios on adding a second major or minor, either it be in Mendoza, out of Mendoza. We're all about the 4-year graduation rate, and we have a plan of study that maps out basically the full plan, and can you fit it in? So we want to make sure that it's doable. Is it realistic? Will it, are you overloading credits? Do you have to take summer school? Can you go abroad? And we look at all of those different angles and making sure that you're satisfied and like the result. And then you can meet with any advisor. You're not assigned. So, but you may develop a relationship with one, and that we recommend they meet with an advisor every semester before registration, just to make sure you're on track. So we develop strong relationships with our students as we continue through their time at Mendoza. Great. Okay, so I'm going through questions. We're getting a ton in, and I'm just hoping that we can get to most. One question, and Sean, I'm gonna have you address this: case studies versus projects versus exams. So, how often are case studies used in your classes? Is it most of the time? Can you shed some light on that?
Yeah, so I'd say actually, surprisingly for me, case studies have been primarily through my energy studies minor class, the business of energy. And we'll just do a case study every 2 weeks or so. We'll run through it, read the case study, answer related questions, summarize the case study as well. But I would say the majority of what I do in Mendoza is either projects or exams. And I actually prefer, I'm an exam guy. I enjoy exams. You get everything all laid out and then you prepare for a crazy hour and a half and then you just lay it all on the line and how it goes. But yeah, so I would say it depends on the classes you take as well. The case study class, the big one we have is BPS, I believe, business problem solving. So for that class, what I understand, which I haven't taken it yet, it's one of the last sequence 3 classes I have to take, but it's run quite similarly to a consulting class where you'll get a case, you'll have a team, like we talked about the team projects before, you'll have a team where you go through, develop a solution, deliver it to executives or people who will come from some company to come in, assess the deliverables that you and your team provide, and give some feedback. So that's the majority of case studies. I think maybe Tess, do you have any other experience with case studies specifically?
So I would say case studies, especially in Mendoza, are more confined to the management and marketing majors. In finance, we don't really do a lot of case study work in terms of learning material. But Sean mentioned BPS, and I don't know if that's going to be included in the core curriculum, but it was one of my favorite classes of all time, and I really learned so much from it. And when we were talking about team projects and that kind of stuff, like that class, my group, we have gotten together for dinner once a semester ever since that class. And not everyone has that experience, obviously, but definitely would recommend. But in terms of textbook versus exam, it really depends on the professor. And also on the type of class you're taking. Like I said, finance is much more textbook oriented, less case study. But when you get into the management and marketing majors, that switches a little bit.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Hold on a second. Let me get my, all right, here's a question. I'm going to go to Sean. What are some of your favorite Mendoza traditions? Are there some Mendoza traditions and what is your favorite? And then let's go to Notre Dame tradition and your favorite.
Interesting. Okay. I don't even know if it's necessarily a tradition, but just staying in Mendoza until midnight in the basement, just getting as much work done as you can. Some weeks are tough. Like actually this week, got a ton of assignments that all just happen to correlate or just happen on the same week. I've got a bunch of things due. So I'll probably end up in Mendoza pretty late tonight, but I'd say it's kind of like a rite of passage. You spend a late night in Mendoza and you get to see some other Mendoza students. You get to meet some people who are in similar classes as you. Let's see. Oh, gosh, Mendoza traditions. I feel like a lot of these are just things that every Mendoza kid goes through together, like taking BPS, going through all the consulting stuff, going through getting an internship. It's just kind of unofficial rites of passage, I'd say. And Notre Dame traditions. I mentioned that I was in the band. The band is full of traditions. We love the trumpets under the dome. That's a big one. And my section, the faltos, which is just a fancy way to say marching French horn, pitched in F alto, which is where falto comes from. It's very witty. I know, it's so funny. But one thing that we do is we play Danny Boy as a section, which is actually super beautiful. And each game day, each game weekend, one of the seniors gets to conduct and stands in the middle of the circle of faltos playing. And I just think it's a really, really cool thing. Maybe it's a little sappy, maybe it's a little sentimental, but I like it.
Tess, what are your thoughts?
I'm trying to think of a Mendoza tradition and I can't think of any off the top of my head, but so for brevity's sake, I'll just move to Notre Dame traditions. My favorite is singing the alma mater after football games or any athletic event and after mass on Sundays. That is just, I remember my first football game ever after transferring, and I'll admit I was teary-eyed, even thinking about graduation coming up. That's just something that is so special to me. So I really love that.
Fantastic. Thank you both. Switching gears a little bit back to career, what did the career counseling look like for you as a Mendoza student? And Tess, go with that one.
So career counseling was obviously different for me with COVID and my path moving in such a sort of zigzag way because I'm going to law school. But I used the Career Center a lot when I was a sophomore and junior. I used it to get my internship as a sophomore before it was canceled. And they have so many options for just talking to people about what you're potentially interested in and what might fit for you in terms of your passions and what you want your life to look like in the future. And so they have such a broad scope of resources there. They're really good with helping you find a place for conducting interviews. I know during COVID, everything was online, everything was over Zoom. And so the Career Center is really nice because there are so many spaces up there. They have rooms that are specifically set aside for interviews or for calls or any meetings or anything like that. And so they were so helpful with making sure everyone had what they needed, especially during that sort of difficult time, just to make sure they were staying on track despite all of the chaos that was sort of going on in the corporate world. But I don't know if Sean has any different experiences with that.
Yeah, definitely a big fan of all the rooms they have up there. They've got, I think it's got to be like 100 rooms up on the 5th floor just for interviews and conducting mock interviews, stuff like that. What I used it for the most part, was resume reviews. In my freshman year, I was, as you walk into college, you don't have a whole lot of internship experience, and that is the experience of a lot of people. So I was going up there and I said, hey, can you please help me out? Just want to make it look really pretty, so when I do apply for an internship, it looks good. And they sat down with me, they sent me an advisor, and she just went through my resume with me, helped format it. Turns out Microsoft Word is a very niche skill to have, but actually not so much niche, but an unexpected skill to perfect. And she had it perfected, and she helped me out a lot. But beyond that, there are also headshots up in the 5th floor of Duncan Student Center, where they'll just take a free headshot for you that you can put up on your LinkedIn. And, business kids love their LinkedIn. It's a great place to get that 500 plus connections badge of honor. But yeah, that was what I usually use the Student Center or the Career Center for. And then there's also an email that the Career Center sends out every now and then. I believe it's once a semester, and it's kind of like a checklist / questionnaire about where are you in your internship search process. And it helps you get organized as you go through your freshman, sophomore, senior year, junior, senior years, and get like a benchmark of where you should be, what your priorities are. And they even provide some suggestions based on the answers to some values questions that they ask or similar things. And they say, hey, this might be something for you, or hey, you might be interested in IV or consulting or international development, something like that. Yeah, there's a million things that Career Center does to help discern and get you on your way.
Great. And I'm going to
Lisa,
add on.
I just
go ahead.
Add a little
Please,
bit
Jim.
to that. Yeah, so our Morello Family Center for Career Development has two broad teams. One is really focused on the younger students. It's really about career discernment, major discernment. And then they have the other team that you kind of transition to. That's a lot of what Tess and Sean have been talking about, is helping you connect with employers and secure internships and secure full-time job offers after graduation. So they do not only that stuff, which we traditionally think about with the Career Center, connecting you to jobs. They also have a lot of activities and a lot of resources and concerts help you just kind of, when you get here and you have a lot of questions, just kind of sort out what fits for you. So, and then we also have a lot of other centers outside of the Career Center that have a lot to do with career readiness and helping you connect as well. For instance, finance majors is our largest major. We have a Notre Dame Institute for Global Investing, NDIGI. They have all kinds of events, networking events, workshop events, and we have other centers and other institutes. I mentioned the Real Estate Institute, the Idea Center, that all these places as well have opportunities to connect you to resources and internships and job opportunities.
And if anyone's, I typed in one of the answers related to the Career Center website. That's a public facing website. It's undergradcareers.ncc.edu. at nd.edu. So you can look there, the preparation, career path tabs, the getting started. So there, if a student utilizes the resources, they have the path and trajectory to land the internship. But there are so many resources available to students, and then you can meet with career advisors. So it's just a more of getting started and then following that process. But they do a very excellent job in working with our students. One question somebody brought up about, are there bonding and orientation events at the beginning of the year? And the answer is yes. It's the whole welcome week and welcome weekend. But to both Sean and Tess, would you say Mendoza is a tight-knit community? So, yeah.
I think it is one of the most tight-knit communities on campus. I think people tend to underestimate the challenges you have to go through as a Mendoza major, because it's not easy. It's not impossible, obviously, but you really form strong bonds, not only within your major, but just within the college as a whole, especially because there are so many points of crossover. And we're so lucky to have a really beautiful building where there's a lot of space for undergraduates to come together and meet for group projects or just do work by themselves. And so seeing everyone in that environment and constantly having classes together over the course of your 4 years really makes for a strong community bond, I think. I don't know, I'm sure Sean has other experiences too.
Yeah, definitely. But that definitely covers like a lot of it. I would say the biggest thing that when I'm speaking to people who aren't in Mendoza that they don't necessarily understand because they haven't gone through it is the intangible aspect of being a business major. So what I mean is like the parts that aren't credit based, like you don't have a class that's networking. You network on your own to get yourself an internship. You put in that work by yourself as a self-motivated, driven individual. And this is something that differs a little bit from other colleges because it's one of the unspoken things that every Mendoza kid has to go through. A lot of my finance major friends, they've gone on, super days, and they've had days where they have to go on 9 networking calls back to back, and they're absolutely drained at the end of the day. But it's not because of classes, it's because of networking and other intangible things that people from other colleges might not have the same experience with exactly. And that's not to say, it's, better or worse, but I'm just like trying to highlight that it's different. It's something that Mendoza students go through together and that Mendoza students understand. So even if you don't know everybody in Mendoza on a first name basis, I'd say it's a tight-knit community in that it's connected by the experiences you share.
Fantastic. Thank you both. We've 3 minutes. We've got a couple more questions. How do you handle, or how would you describe the Mendoza environment really being competition versus collaboration? And do you think it is competitive? And how would you talk about that? Tess, what would you say?
I think it is competitive, but I think you have to look at sort of your population. We all had to compete to get into this school, and you're going to have to compete when you get out. And so when you're here, everyone talks about the curve and how difficult it is, but it really pushes you to be your best. I would like that has been one of the things I've learned most. I know when I get out into the workforce, the work that I'm going to produce is going to be to the best of my ability, because that's how I had to do it at Mendoza. And I will say in terms of collaboration, you're sort of brought together by that competition in a way. I think Mendoza does have a healthy balance of making sure you're not sort of becoming complacent, and at the same time making sure that they're fostering a community where everyone knows that they have someone they can talk to and you can rely on each other when it comes to those sort of difficult classes or problems or exams. So I wouldn't say it's one or the other. I would definitely say it's a good combination of the two.
Okay, great. Sean, I'm going to ask you this question. And we have 1 more minute. Did you feel overwhelmed by the number of opportunities, and how did the university to support you?
Interesting. That's a tough question to fit into a minute.
I know. Sorry.
I would say I was unsure how to approach it at first, but once I started talking to advisors and upperclassmen, I was able to whittle down all the opportunities that I had. I was part of a program called Building Bridges Mentorship Program, which set me up with a mentor, both a peer mentor and a professor mentor. And I was able to speak with them and go through, okay, do I do SIBC? Do I do Wall Street Club? Do I do band, orchestra? Like, what do I do? And they helped me figure out how to allot my time throughout the semester. And I wish I could go further into it, but I see we're at 8:45. But you want to email me or ask any questions, always open.
Great. Thank you, Sean. I appreciate it. All right. So Jim, I'm going to pass it back to you that we've hit our 8:45 limit. I just want to thank everyone who's on the phone. If you've not had your question answered, my email address is LHEM as in Mary, ING@nd.edu, and I'll be happy to answer questions for you. So just email me directly because we did not get to everyone. So Jim, I'll pass the torch back to you.
Again, we were advised by the admissions office to make a hard stop at 8:45. So we know your time's valuable, so we don't want to cut it off here. I want to thank you for taking your time to join us this evening. I want to thank Tess and Sean especially for sharing their experiences and their insight with you. You have a lot of big decisions to make in the next couple of weeks. I can confidently say, while Notre Dame may not be, the very best place for everyone, it is certainly a great place for most everyone, and it is going to be the best place for a lot of you. So I wish you all the best in your decision, and wherever you end up, I hope you all the success. I'll just end with a go Irish.
All right. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you.